I knew, even before the wedding, that Julian had once loved a girl to the death. But it didn't matter. The Vance-Sterling alliance was about profit first. Love wasn't a required line item. In the 6th year of our marriage, newly empowered Julian cheated on me with a true love he'd parked overseas. In the 10th year of our marriage, the Sterling CEO's secret son turned 3.
Fine.
The CEO chair can change hands. Jordan, I choose money. Today was the monthly family day. Julian arrived late, stayed distracted, checked his phone every other minute. After forcing down a meal with our daughter, he muttered something about urgent business and left early. Once Isla was asleep, I walked to my private study and opened Serena's resume. The perfume clinging to Julian was the same scent I caught every week in Isla's music salon. Her credentials were as dazzling as her face: top local conservatory, then glittering years abroad, trophies in every major competition. Anyone would sigh and call her the full package. She flew home early this year, just in time for Julian's lavish search for a private piano tutor for Isla, and slid seamlessly into the Sterling mansion. Marilyn, run a full background on someone. Basic info is in your inbox. And dig up everything on Julian's first love while you're at it. I dialed my assistant and gave the order. I'd understood since childhood that the money I enjoyed came with a future invoice I would sacrifice for the family business. So, when the elders first floated a Vance-Sterling engagement, I didn't refuse, I obeyed. My first meeting with Julian could hardly be called pleasant. It was unspeakably absurd. A young man with defiant blue hair and skin-tight, racing leathers swaggered over, slammed his helmet on the table, and sloshed coffee across my blouse. So you're Talia? The bride my old man picked? The Vances aren't bankrupt, and you're not ugly. It's not like you can't find some other guy. Why agree to this merger? He leaned in, elbows on the table, smirking. I happened to be between boyfriends, and I'd heard you were tolerable to look at, so I honored the elder's invitation, I answered, smiling as I signaled the waiter for a fresh cup. Besides Serena, I'll marry no one. I won't bow to your power play. Julian's neck corded with indignation. No problem. I'll relay your exact words to Richard and Eleanor. You may go. I extended my right hand toward the exit. He'd hoped to rile me. Finding no drama, he threw me a just wait and fled. Later, when my father asked my impression, I summed it up as a spoiled boy who hasn't grown up. No match for Jason, who is already shadowing the board. After several more forced matchmaking rounds, we crossed paths again, and I heard the epic saga of his first love. Rich prodigy and gifted commoner, twin souls crushed by the cold Sterling matriarch. Again, I didn't care. I was my parents' only child. The Vance empire would be mine. Marrying Vance's underqualified Phoenix man carried more risk than allying with a disinherited second son who, at least, would never sell me out for cash or ego. Career came first. Men were garnish, not outre. Among trust fund train wrecks, Julian, apart from once defying his parents and eloping, was comparatively clean. Half a year after signing the engagement contracts, we collected our marriage license and threw the wedding of the decade. I dove straight into Vance Industries, hacking through the board under my father's shield, while Julian kept playing prodigal, Grand Prix weekends, yacht raves. I didn't mind as long as he stayed off headlines, off drugs, and off the family's face-losing radar. We were less spouses than slightly familiar roommates. By year 5, I'd swallowed the Vance conglomerate whole. Under pressure from both sets of parents to produce Vance heir, I gave birth to Isla. Julian finally parked his sports cars and stayed put, showing signs of adult responsibility. Man proposes, heaven disposes. The month Isla turned 1, Jason flew overseas to close a deal, walked into a riot, and took a stray bullet. Before Julian could grieve, they shoved him into the heir apprentice mold and cranked the grinder. If Julian was really cheating, I had to take it seriously. Since his ascent, our holdings had braided together. Tug one thread, and both empires could unravel. Marilyn's efficiency is gold-plated. The next morning, she marched into my office hugging a stack of folders, worth every zero of her 7-figure salary. Serena, Julian's first love. 10 years ago, she accepted $500,000 from Eleanor Sterling and vanished to the UK. Age 32. Master of music from Royal XXX Conservatoire, married and divorced, one 3-year-old son, Aiden. Ex-husband Eric, British-Chinese solicitor with his own firm. That face is a Xerox of Julian at 6, no paternity test required. Which ding, which E? I lifted the toddler's photo from the top sheet. Yes, you're right, Julian's. The X was a paid stand-in. Ding as in stable, E as in chess. Seems I underestimated him. The ink's still wet on his CEO nameplate, and he's already rushing to retrieve the one who got away. Aiden, what swagger. He thinks he can pin my Isla in place? Let's see if Julian has the moves. Marilyn, before close of business catalog every Vance, Sterling co-venture for the last 5 years. I tap the desk. And total every dollar he's funneled to Serena's son. Still community property until I sign off on a divorce. Roger that, Cameron. Everything in your inbox by 5. She adjusted her gold-rimmed glasses. Latest intel. Mr. Sterling booked the private rooftop room at Citron Star tonight, 7:30. My money, says the other guest, is Ms. Whitman. I went silent for a beat. Why don't you treat your boyfriend to dinner at Citron, my tab? Unlimited budget. My beloved Talia? If you want me to moonlight as paparazzi, at least tip me. Marilyn wiggled 2 fingers, grinning. I pegged a wad of scrap paper at her. 7-figure salary and you're counting coupons? You can't spring for one meal? Different ledger, ma'am. I'm a mortgage slave. Every extra dime a tax principal. Or you could bump my base again. Her smile turned fawning. Please. I feed you, clothe you, hand you each season's it bag. Drop 2 college boy toys a year, and you'd own your condo free and clear. I rolled my eyes. No can do. Monday to Friday, I'm your 24/7 workox. Weekends, I recharge on frat boy vitamin D vibes. She caught the paper ball and bank shot it into the wastebasket. Shoo. Consider it overtime. Hit my bag closet, pick any 2024 release, no ceiling. Love you, Talia. You'll have 360-degree snugglies of Julian and Miss Whitman by dawn. She marched out burning with paparazzi zeal. The office fell quiet. I stroked the desktop frame. Isla's 5th birthday family portrait. No one would guess the man gazing at her with such devotion already had a secret child. When she was born, that tiny milk puff melted me. Watching Julian overflow with fatherly love, I'd wondered if I could spare a piece of my heart for him. Then Jason died. Julian was catapulted into power, and the fantasy aborted itself. I could barely juggle Vance, let alone romance. Little did I imagine that while I fortified Julian's throne, he'd gift me this bombshell and parade the woman under our daughter's nose. The CEO title has apparently made him forget how gravity works. Since I hoisted him onto that throne, I can just as easily tip him off. Ring, ring, ring. The phone rang. The screen said Eleanor. Hi, Mom. Free this afternoon? What's up? I answered. Usually, at this hour, she was either at the spa or having tea with the other matrons. Oh, Talia, nothing urgent. I just Isla. Bring her to the mansion for dinner tonight. I'll have Mrs. Housekeeper make her favorite sweet and sour ribs, and I've simmered bird's nest and snow clam soup just for you. Her voice sparkled. If I hadn't read the file Marilyn handed me, stating that both Sterlings knew everything, that Eleanor had even nursed Serena through postpartum confinement, I might have believed my mother-in-law was, despite her perpetual airs, a decent grandmother. Before the wedding, the Vance and Sterling patriarchs had agreed. The child would take my surname and inherit Vance Industries. Ellis would receive 5% of the company, 3 properties, 2 storefronts, and $50 million. Everything else would go to Julian's older brother, Jason. So when Isla was born, both families were delighted. At her 1-month banquet, Richard and Eleanor gifted their granddaughter a $30 million Cash App gift. After all, Isla carried half Sterling blood, and in their minds half of the future Vance empire already belonged to them. But after Jason died, the mood soured. Eleanor began hinting, blatantly and obliquely, that Julian and I should have another child, preferably a boy, to inherit the Sterling businesses. Bound by the principle that our two clans would rise or fall together, I poured myself in, day and night, to secure Julian's footing as Sterling's CEO, leaving no energy for anything else. I even sent Isla back to the Vance mansion so my parents could look after her. When I missed her, I could only watch videos on my phone. All my effort counted for less than the family's hunger for a golden grandson. Who delivered the child didn't matter, so long as the seed was Julian's and the name was Sterling. "Grandma, I'm here." The front door had barely opened when Isla fluttered across the marble and into Eleanor's lap on the sofa. "Oh, my sweet darling, Grandma's missed you so much." "Did you miss Grandma?" She hugged the child and smacked a kiss on her cheek. If only she hadn't turned away to wipe her mouth in distaste, the performance would have been perfect. "I did, but Grandpa and Grandma are always flying off somewhere, so I couldn't even if I wanted to," Isla chirped, swinging her little legs. Eleanor blinked once, then smiled even more brightly. "Grandpa and Grandma travel for business, sweetheart. Otherwise, how could we buy you big houses and fast cars? But we're staying put from now on. Talia, you must bring Isla to dine with us more often." "That's wonderful. Why don't Julian and I move back for a while so we can keep you company?" I beamed. "Absolutely not." Eleanor's voice shot up. "Mom, are you saying you and Dad need your love nest so badly? Your marriage is adorable. Women your age envy how inseparable you are. Unlike Julian and me." I sighed, eyes downcast. Yes, your father and I are used to our privacy. Just come for meals, no need to move in. You newlyweds need your own space to grow closer." She smoothed the moment, then turned her head. "Mrs. Housekeeper, serve dinner. Can't let my Isla starve." The dishes appeared quickly, every one Isla's and my favorites. Apparently Eleanor would stage any spectacle to clear the way for her son's trysts with his mistress. After the meal, while we chatted, she patted my hand with maternal tenderness. "Talia, you've slimmed down. Work must be brutal. From now on, I'll have Mrs. Housekeeper deliver a bowl of bird's nest and snow clam soup to your office every day. A woman must pamper herself. Look at me, I never meddle in the men's business. Being a perfect homewife is enough. You should loosen your grip. Let Julian handle the company. Isla's 6 now, time for a little brother. The Sterling fortune mustn't fall to outsiders." The words were framed as concern, but the subtext was clear. Transfer Vance's power to Julian and start breeding. "Mom, not in front of the child." I rose, lifted Isla, and cut her off. "We'll head home. Isla has kindergarten tomorrow. I'll discuss your suggestions with Julian." I left despite Eleanor's protests. Let her phone Julian to sob that I was unfilial and domineering. Who cared? I vetted most of Sterling's deals. He wouldn't dare offend me. Only my muddled mother-in-law kept leaping forward to flaunt her authority. Back home, after tucking Isla in, I reviewed the file on Julian and Serena again. Given the current entwinement of Vance and Sterling, he shouldn't have the gall to spirit her back, unless he was certain he could knock me out in one blow, leaving me no choice but divorce. I speed-dialed Marilyn. 30 seconds later. "Talia, I've spent the day sorting docs for you, and tonight I was out shooting incriminating photos of the cheaters. I just stepped out of my dress and notched the arrow when you called. This had better be life or death, or I tender my resignation tomorrow." Her voice crackled with irritation. "Sorry for ruining your fun," I said, utterly unrepentant. "Company, half Vance hour. Got it, Avery." She hung up, walked back in from the balcony, dressed without a glance at the pouting toy boy in her bed, and transferred 10 grand in consolation money once the door clicked shut. "Talia, you dragged me here at lightning speed. What did you spot?" My dear mother-in-law practically shoved my nose into handing Vance to Julian, then staying home to make her a grandson, I said. "I keep turning it over. Julian hid Serena abroad for years, even staged a fake marriage to mask their affair, yet now he flaunts her under my nose. There has to be a blind spot I missed." I unlocked the contract safe and hauled out every deal Sterling had brokered in the past year. "You think they tampered somewhere else?" Marilyn said, immediately yanking over the folders and examining each clause line by line. "My father-in-law can't run a lemonade stand." If Grandpa Sterling hadn't groomed Jason early, the Sterlings would have gone bankrupt ages ago. And Julian's worse. Every Sterling contract still crosses my desk. He wouldn't dare fiddle with joint projects. So the knife has to be buried in Vance Outsider's deal. And for my beautiful but brainless mother-in-law to speak to me like that today, Julian must have whispered that I'm already trussed. At last, after Vance's hour of word-by-word forensics, found it. Talia, the South Shore resort build with a Quinn, was clearly $500 million over 3 years. Now the page reads $500 million over 1 year. If we fail to deliver the resort in 12 months, penalty is 5 times the contract value, $25 billion. That would vacuum up 2/3 of Vance's cash flow in one swoop and hand the perfect club to the old foxes still circling. She slapped the document in front of me. Hire a forensic lab to examine this. Page sat in a safe. Can a digit rewrite itself? I jabbed a finger at the altered number. Talia, don't you suspect me? I'm the only other person who knows the safe code. Marilyn's eyes were faintly red. Marilyn, I rose, palms flattening on the desk, and looked down at her. You've been with me 12 years. I know exactly who you are. I'd suspect my own reflection before I suspect you. Rather than you swapping contracts, I'm betting they altered the original. Signed at 3-year term, slept in the safe 3 months, woke up a 1 year. A perfect forgery of my signature. They want Vance to panic first, so Sterling can fish in troubled waters. Julian's business acumen hasn't grown, but his backstab game has. Time we return the favor. My lips curled in a cold smile. Talia, leave it to me. It's a two-birds trick. Seize your power and purge me, your loyal bulldog. Marilyn was practically gnashing her teeth. Put a PI on Zane 24/7 and dig up leverage. Also find out which spa Mrs. Mother-in-law is holed up in. I'd love to pay respects. Then fly in several out-of-state construction crews, scatter them inside our own teams. We prepare for both war and peace. Find someone with a clean background to hand-deliver a letter to Eleanor, then send copies to the most stubborn tabloids in town. I pulled open the right-hand drawer, took out a cream envelope, and laid it on the desk. First, help me send Julie an early wedding gift. What's this? Marilyn's curiosity got the better of her. She slipped the photos out and gasped. That's old Chairman Sterling. Tisk tisk, who knew Richard swung both ways and ate everything on the buffet. I wonder if the ever-loving Mrs. Sterling will faint when she sees how devoted her husband really is. Talia, my queen, you should have waved this trump card ages ago to choke that old witch. She's always throwing her mother-in-law weight around, picking fights whenever she's bored. Stop playing clueless with me. I shot her a sideways glance. Haha, boss, if the Sterlings ever found out you'd already scooped up 20% of their stock on the sly, would they collectively cough blood? Marilyn's grin was pure weasel. My dear mother-in-law is Vance idiot. Let her learn that Julian's daddy keeps not only mistress number 3 and number 4, but also boy toys number 5 and number 6, and she'll scream it from the rooftops. The happier they look to the public, the higher my shares climb. The more chips I hold, the louder my voice. Right now, Julian's daring to keep me in the dark for 4 years, so I'll just snip the CEO title off his Sterling name tag and send him back where he came from. Oh, and book me a full physical for tomorrow morning. I pinched the bridge of my nose. Busy as I'd been, we'd still averaged a conjugal visit once or twice a month, and the thought made my stomach lurch. Boss, you okay? That bastard Rowan. Marilyn knew my physical aversion disorder. Back then I'd picked Julian partly because, apart from his first love, his sheet was clean. Turned out he saved the biggest turd for last. I'm fine. I just rented a stud for a few years, gilded stud at that. Not a bad deal. I wiped the tears pooling at the corner of my eye and laughed at myself. All right, off you go. You've had a long day. Go cuddle your puppy. Once the war starts, you won't have time to spoil him. I patted her shoulder and headed home. The next morning, Julian breezed downstairs, glowing. A faint red patch lurked just above his collar, half hidden by the shirt. Looked like last night's midnight snack had agreed with him. Julian, Mom's zodiac birthday is next month and there's a ton to arrange. Isla, and I will move into her place for a while. Saves the back and forth. Pause Isla's piano lessons until after the party. Keep paying Serena's salary. Since Serena had declared war under my nose, I'd gladly give her more free time to tangle with Julian. Just stay out of mine. He blinked, caught up fast, and nodded eagerly. Your mother's birthday. How could I forget? There's Vance auction in Hong Kong next week. I'll pick out some antique jewelry for her. I'll have Jared tell Serena not to worry you, sweetheart. You just concentrate on the banquet. His phone rang then. Eleanor's wails flooded through, so raw she could barely breathe. Julian, come quick. Your shameless father. His filthy photos just arrived at the door, bare white but in the air. He's disgraced us all. Boo-hoo. I can't live anymore. This is unbearable. Slap, shut your mouth, Richard hissed.
Ah.
Dylan, you bastard. You dare hit me? I'll fight you. Eleanor screeched and lunged. Beep, beep. Mom?
Mom.
What happened? Julian shouted at the dead line, frantic. Stop yelling. Something's gone wrong. Let's go. Casey, drive Isla to school today. I jumped up so fast my chair toppled. Hey, honey, no. Julian caught my arm. Let me check first. If it's serious, I'll call you. You take care of your mom's party. You sure? I thought I heard Mom being hit. My voice cracked with worry. You misheard. Probably just a squabble. You know Mom's pride. If you show up, she'll be mortified. He sounded absolutely certain.
Fine.
Go calm them down. A lifetime of love shouldn't bruise over trivia. Call me if you can't handle it. Will do. Bye, Isla. Be good at school. Daddy's got to run. He was out the door before she answered. Pity I couldn't watch the live show, but I could picture it. Eleanor never tolerated a single grain of sand in her eye, yet she put up with her son keeping a mistress and a secret child. Go figure. When Julian reached the old mansion, the ever-graceful Eleanor sat on the floor, face swollen, silent tears streaming. The living room looked hit by a tornado. Richard was nowhere. Where's Dad? Julian edged toward her, then noticed the glossy prints scattered across the rug. The air hissed through his teeth as his fists clenched. Gone, off to his little slut. Her voice was sandpaper. Retribution. This is what I get for covering your cheating, Julian. Mom, Serena's different. The only woman I ever wanted to marry was her. You forced the breakup and pushed Talia on me because of a Vance fortune. Did you ever ask what I wanted? In your eyes, I'm just a pawn. He yanked at his tie, the old thorn scraping bone. I'll talk to Dad. Make him cut off every toy on the side. You two can stay home and dote on grandkids, Serena, and I will give you plenty of fat grandsons. He lifted her onto the sofa.
No.
I'm divorcing that sterling swine. Her words dripped acid. Stop dreaming. You haven't worked a single day in decades. Every dime you spend is sterling money. Without Dad, you're clueless. Lower your volume. Maybe he would need comfort elsewhere. I'm still your mother. You'd watch me end up in rags. Her eyes hollowed. Ever since you drove Serena away and married me off to secure Jason's seat, my respect for you flatlined. If you still want me to call you Mom, drop the divorce idea. Sterling stock can't afford another plunge. A cruel glint flashed in his. Jason, your obedient, filial son, is dead on a New York street. Your daughter-in-law and granddaughter are exiles. I'm all you've got, so behave. He turned to leave. Julian, Talia isn't me. She has money, power, and zero need for a man. When she discovers you've hidden Serena under her nose, how do you think she'll strike? Relax, I won't expose you. I still need my sterling son to keep me in diamonds and champagne. She laughed, a cracked, dreamy sound. I finished Mrs. Housekeeper's video and sighed. Money really does buy the best box seats. How else would I eavesdrop on that atomic chat? I glanced at the wall clock. 10 minutes to noon. Almost show time, Julian. Hope you enjoy the surprise I wrapped for you. Asterisk. Cameron, Ms. Sterling is here. Marilyn tapped my office door. Bring her to my private salon and brew 2 cups of last week's geisha. Skylar loves it. On it. When the last contract was signed, I walked down the corridor to the salon. Skylar is 5 years older than me. We'd grown up bumping into each other at charity galas, yacht parties, whatever excuse the dynasties used to parade their heirs. In our world, we know we're bred for mergers, not marriages. Only the deluded chase true love, and they end up disinherited and disposable. Anyone with a clear head knows it's better to cruise every charity gala first instead of marching blind into a dynastic marriage. You scout the peer pool, rank the prospects, and when the merger vows are finally signed, you at least know what you're dragging home. Skylar had luck on her side. 10 years in the same classrooms as her future husband, then grad school abroad together. Childhood sweetheart material. Her family's balance sheet was smaller, but still respectable. People called it Vance equal match, and after the wedding the couple really did look like a perfume ad. Happy, gooey, inseparable. The catch, of course, was that the groom was my late brother-in-law, Jason. When he died, Richard and Eleanor, old money, old mind, obsessed with male heirs, decided a granddaughter was useless baggage. To clear Julian's path to the Sterling throne, they booted the widowed Skylar and her toddler out of the mansion and announced neither would collect another cent from the Sterling trusts. Skylar, you made it. How are you and Tong Tong? Come to Grandma's this weekend for lunch. Isla misses her big sister. We're fine, and Tong Tong misses her little sister, too. Skylar smiled softly. I'll bring Anson's birthday gift along. But Talia, why the summons to Vance Tower? Couldn't it wait till Saturday? I tapped her phone. My watch read exactly 12. Look at the internet first, then we'll talk. A quarter of Vance hour later, she set her cup down, exhaled a long sigh, and chased it with a sip of perfectly tempered coffee, voice still gentle. Never guessed my former father-in-law had that much game. My ex-mother-in-law must be boiling. Talia, what did the Sterlings do to you? You've always put the company first. You wouldn't drop a scandal bomb just for fun. Julian isn't only cheating, he has a 3-year-old son. I've been wearing green for 4 straight years. I didn't bother to soft pedal. After the divorce, the story would detonate anyway. The cup slammed against the table. Skylar's face flamed.
How dare he?
Without you propping him up, that good-for-nothing couldn't keep the Sterling CEO chair for a single earnings call. Which is why I asked you here. I leaned in. Sell me your Sterling shares. I'll pay market, plus 1% of Vance stock for Tong Tong's trust. Talia, are you planning? Her eyes lit up, wary but glittering. That's the joy of dealing with smart people. No drawn-out sketches needed. Exactly. If Julian can gut me, I can gut him. CEO chairs are surprisingly comfortable. I wouldn't mind another one. Back then, the old Sterling, which threw Tong Tong and me out with nothing. You fought for $50 million in damages and slipped me Jason's reel, well, so Tong Tong kept her 2%. My parents adore us, but those assets are what let us hold our heads high. I owe you, Talia, and I don't forget. With your brain, you'd grab Sterling eventually, with or without my 2%. But you're willing to look after us, so forget the extra Vance shares. The sale price alone will keep Tong Tong and me in Hermes for 2 lifetimes. Greed is ugly. She worried her lower lip. Still, a senior citizen sex scandal won't topple Sterling. Our crowd has seen far worse. Then I'll add another weight on the scale. Announcement of my divorce from Julian. Asterisk. After work, I collected Isla from kindergarten and took her to the Vance mansion. We shared a cozy family dinner. The Sterlings never rang, as if they'd evaporated. When the plates were cleared, Mom asked Mrs. Housekeeper to escort Isla to the basement play zone while the 3 of us adults withdrew to Dad's study. Talia, what's going on with Julian? His father's train wreck photos are everywhere, yet he hasn't called. And you don't look the least bit rattled. Dad had spent the afternoon dying to phone the disgraced chairman, but managed to restrain himself. Probably too ashamed to ask you to bury the trending hashtag. I did call Julian. He says he's on top of it and doesn't need me. I lifted both palms. Your guess is as good as mine. In truth, at noon I had sicked a team of investigators on Serena. Let's see whom Julian treasures more. Daddy or soulmate. Quinn, Julian may be clueless, but you're not. This filth splashes onto us. How am I supposed to enjoy retirement fishing when you might beg me to parachute back into Vance? He glowered, Fishing had already half-dented. Mom smacked his back. Old man, stop barking and let the girl finish. When has she ever needed hand-holding?
Fine.
Let's hear what flowers she's going to paint. He humphed. I laid it out. Julian's affair, the toddler, Richard and Eleanor's monthly European art tours that were really diaper-duty visits, and how last month Julian had moved Serena and the boy into the city mansion under the title Isla's new piano tutor. Dad forgot all about Richard's mistress photos. He vaulted from his chair, snatched the limited edition pro-sign driver off the wall, and headed for the door. I'm gonna flatten every Sterling on the map. Rowan cheats on my girl, and the whole clan covers for him. Dad, I fed the photos to the press myself. I'm divorcing Julian, and I intend to change the Sterling nameplate to Vance. He skidded to a halt, rehung the club, flicked Vance's imaginary speck of dust off with a feather duster, then turned deadly serious. Thought it through? No second thoughts.
None.
I'm Talia, slap me, and I break your wrist. He's already struck first. I'm simply returning the favor ×3. I handed him the contract Zane had prepared and walked him through every poisonous subclause. He laughed, half furious, half proud. Sterling's little pup bites the hand that fed him. Well, I've misjudged someone before. Stay here with Isla while you sharpen the knives. Leave the rest to your retired fishing bum. He still knows how to bait a hook. Asterisk. A full 24 hours later, Richard's sex scandal slid from the #1 trending slot after everyone who mattered had seen it. Sterling stock shed several points and I vacuumed up shares, grateful that Julian had chosen true love. Another week crawled by. Once the trembling Serena was soothed, Julian finally remembered he had a legal wife. Honey, I'm sorry, this week has been insane. I've asked Jared to take care of Mom's birthday gift. She'll love it. His apology oozed through the phone. Business comes first. Mom's side is handled. Just show up on time. I scribbled a note to the divorce lawyers. Add the Chestnut Hill mansion. Isla adores the rooftop garden. I'll drop by tonight to see you and Isla.
Click.
Jerk obviously isn't busy enough. I shot a few commands to a contact, ensuring he would be dancing with crises until after Mom's birthday. Day 1. Richard, stripped of his 40-year devoted husband halo, strode through the grand imperial lobby arm in arm with his mistress, collided with Eleanor, and triggered a catfight. Julian rushed to referee. I severed Vance. Sterling joint ventures. Day 2. Serena's Porsche kissed a delivery van, minor scratches. Julian sped to rescue. I severed joint ventures. Day 3. Day 4. Day 15. Paparazzi caught Eleanor entering a bar at midnight with a boy toy half her age. Julian sped to rescue. I logged off after uploading the final dissolution agreement. While Julian sprinted around putting out fires, I breezily signed several new contracts for Vance Industries. By year-end, a few more zeros would fatten the account, equal parts sweet and weighty burden. Good fortune deserves company, so I scooped up my phone and pre-ordered the latest Hermes bags. One for me, one for Mom, one for battle-scarred Marilyn. On Mom's birthday, Dad, usually allergic to extravagance, rented the entire Latoile restaurant to fade her. Though the Sterling clan had become the punchline of every society dinner, my in-laws and my husband had no gracious excuse to skip it. They came, cheeks twitching. "Happy birthday, Mom," Julian said the moment he stepped inside, offering a lacquered box with both hands. Inside gleamed a jade bracelet worth nearly $3 million. How thoughtful, Julian. I love it. Talia, take it to the lounge for me, Mom replied after one glance, passing the box to me. By the time I returned, Julian had been dragged off by acquaintances, and Mom and Dad were minding Richard and Eleanor, leaving me blissfully free of the hypocritical trio. After the toasts and the cake, Mom made her familiar wish, and the real purpose of the night was almost complete. Only Dad's closing speech remained. First, thank you all for celebrating my wife's birthday and making it perfect, he began, then paused. Second, I announced that my daughter Talia and Julian have separated. Paperwork is underway. Upon contract expiration, every Vance, Sterling joint venture will dissolve. From that day on, the Vance and Sterling families are strangers. Every gaze swung to Julian. Richard and Eleanor's faces blackened. Julian froze. The younger guests gaped. Everyone thought we were the city's golden couple, while the older set looked unsurprised. Dad had already briefed them. When did I agree to divorce, Talia? I never will, Julian hissed, lunging and clamping my wrist. You cheated and fathered a 3-year-old. Want me to project the family portraits on the wall? I smiled, waving my phone so he could see the incriminating photos. We signed a prenup, darling. Sign quietly, or I'll strip you bare. His face darkened. You'll beg me on your knees one day. Mom, Dad, we're leaving, he barked, hauling his parents away before they could plead. Because Dad had invited plenty of press in hopes of glowing headlines about his devotion to Mom, reporters were on hand. By dawn, the top trending hashtag read, Sterling CEO caught with love child, Vance cuts ties. Dad fielded the fallout. Seasoned hide beats sharp tongue every time. Under pressure, Julian signed. A month later, I collected my coveted divorce certificate at City Hall. He showed up minutes later with Serena and married her on the spot. Talia, you'll regret this. I'll wait for you on your knees. Challenge accepted. The journalists I'd planted live-streamed the scene. Public fury erupted. Newly divorced man remarries mistress and threatens ex-wife. Sterling stock went into freefall. Half its value vanished in a fortnight. Project shelved for lack of capital. Julian had one card left. Expose the shell company and swallow my $2.5 billion deposit. That hope died when the next headline hit. Qin Corp former chairmaness Qin Jiangxue returns from sick leave. Board ousts Zane in night coup. Talia, was this you? Julian screamed over the phone. Yes, every frame, I answered. You thought you and Zane could bury me. But Zane is a live-in son-in-law. Everything he owns is Mrs. Mother-in-law's gift. With her abroad, you assumed you could play king. Trash gilded is still trash. I hung up and blacklisted him. The moment I sensed the trap, I hired high-priced crews, flew Mrs. Mother-in-law home, and redrafted the project contracts. So covert was the team that Zane and Julian learned nothing until shareholders voted Zane out. Julian was never a businessman. The old wolves around him smelled blood, dug 8 pits, and cashed out. Without me, rash moves doomed him. After 2 weeks, he began dumping shares. I bought gleefully. Soon I held over 75%, Sterling's new majority owner. 2 months later, I strode into the C-suite and found him boxing his possessions. When he saw me, agony flashed, then a flicker of hope. Talia, after everything, you're really wiping us out? You feel nothing? Isla needs her father. I laughed. Julian, I wasn't obsessed with you. You proposed, I accepted. All I asked was loyalty. You failed. You cursed me for cruelty? I earned you that CEO chair, yet you conspired with Zane. And Isla? She turned 2 while your bastard was born. Cheap paternal love. She can live without. If you'd asked for divorce 4 years ago, I'd have respected you. Instead, you wanted everything. My money and Serena's bed. Still, thank you. Your indolence let me infiltrate Sterling, quietly buying 20%. You practically gift-wrapped the company. I brushed past him and dropped into the leather throne. Doors that way. After the takeover, I shattered Sterling's org chart, prepping it for merger. Marilyn ran at my heels until, deprived of her college boyfriend, she sulked. I pacified her with triple salary and 10 limited edition bags. As for Julian, others finished him. Serena, ever astute, took the $5 million payoff and vanished overseas, only to bump into him later. Sterling Sr., brace yourself for retirement. One afternoon, Skylar dragged me outside. Red lanterns had replaced skyline glass. Time, it seemed, still marched. Returning laden with shopping bags, I found Isla waiting at the gate. She sprinted into my arms. Mommy, I missed you. I missed you too, sweetheart. Look, pretty dresses. Really? Thank you, Mommy. She bounced inside like a rabbit. I watched Mom, Dad, and Isla laugh together and hurried to join them. Thanks for listening. Rate the story 1 to 10, and if you enjoyed it, like and share. We'd love your comments. Subscribe for more.
See you next time.